My apologies for the delay. Zoom has a new configuration, so it took me a little while to get connected. Nice background, Jeff. Very impressive. Nice to see that you've been traveling and you've moved to some very, floral and festive and green background.
The beauty of this particular festive and floral and green background, if we're being totally transparent, is that it's so much more attractive than this, right?
Nice to see you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the second series of our TL Masterclass on crisis communication. Jeff, it's a pleasure to be with you for one more week. For those that have not met Jeff before and you hadn't had the chance to see our first session, we invite you to go to our YouTube channel, listen to the first session. It's a blockbuster hit. I think everybody that watched it felt that it had interesting content. It had a different approach to crisis communication, or actually communication, because most of us had never, experienced crisis communication. We were lucky that way, whereas Jeff lives from one crisis to the next. So Jeff is a award-winning author and a specialist in crisis, from Ebola to air balloons to any challenging situation that can happen. That he's the guy. He's your Ghostbusters when it comes to crisis. So, Jeff, thank you so much for agreeing to help us and teach us and give us more tools to navigate the storm. The microphone is all yours. I'm going to be following on here with the questions to be the voice of our attendees. But please, the floor is yours.
With an introduction like that, I'm not sure if I should be honored or scared.
Honored.
Let's go with that. Absolutely. I want to just dive right in. I established some of the ground rules first. I am heckle friendly. If you have thoughts, if you have comments, I want you to type those into the chat box. I may not see them right away, but I know that Tina will, and she's more than encouraged to interrupt me. And we're going to try to keep this informal yet educational at the same time. We're going to do a deep dive this afternoon into what it is exactly we need to say in order to calm people down. While I was running around and putting this together, I've had the opportunity and the occasion and the privilege to connect with a good number of you on LinkedIn. And by the way, if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, I'm going to invite you to do that right now. Just go ahead and search Jeff Chatterton. But one of the things I always ask is, what do you want to know? How can I help? How can I serve you? And I've seen a couple of consistent and ongoing themes. So we're going to talk how to thrive versus merely surviving. Right now, I think it's fair to say that the travel companies and hoteliers and travel agencies are bleeding. Some pretty big cuts, some pretty severe cuts. Sometimes it's death by 1,000 cuts. So what do we need to do in order to stop the bleeding and actually start thriving, not just managing to keep our nostrils out of the water? And so with that in mind, the people are asking for some practical, easy to implement ideas. What can we do? How do we do it? What is it that I can do right now? And it's all boiling down to one main and consistent theme, which is, how do I bounce back and how do I come back even stronger? So if you want to come back to the same business you had, this isn't what you want. You want to come back even stronger. If you just want to return to the way things were the old way, you know, there's no point. I'll save you a lot of time. You can get off the call right now. If you want to be even stronger, sit down, buckle up, take some notes, and we're gonna dive into this. So obviously, why are we talking about this now? The COVID-19 crisis, I'm sure you've heard of it, is the largest crisis to hit the global tourism community, the global economy, really, since World War II. The average operator is bleeding to death. We need to take some immediate action, and we need to do that immediately. So what have you said to me? I have had all sorts of conversations in the last 3 months. 95% of you are experiencing a decrease in business. That was shocking. I knew it was bad. I think everyone knew it was bad. Frankly, the way people are talking, I'm surprised it's not even higher than that. But 75% of you have at least already gone through one round of layoffs and are considering even more. There are a number of economies that are starting to open up, and people are asking questions about how do I communicate to people that we may be opening, but we may not be hiring people right away. You've asked for some practical tips and strategies in order to ride out the storm. In essence, you all look like these guys at the bottom of my screen. You're stressed about the future of the business. You've gone through layoffs. You're worried about your employees. You're worried about their families. You're desperate to develop something to say that's going to give you a chance to breathe. Like I just said, you need to get your nostrils out of the water. You need to take a deep breath and figure out, okay, here's what's going to happen. You need some smart action-based conduct. And the problem with everything you've done up until this point is it keeps changing. You're tired of putting together an idea or a marketing plan only to have it be completely made irrelevant because your borders are closed or your borders are open or God knows whatever else is going on. Every situation is just a little bit different. So if that sounds like you, sit down, buckle up. Right now, the one thing everyone is saying is COVID. So here's the message I have been pushing forth, the message that I fervently believe in my soul, which is the coronavirus is not the problem. Decreased bookings is not a problem. Decreased bookings, decreased business is a symptom. The problem is right now you're not trusted. And it's not your fault that you're not trusted. The fact is, tourism companies, hotel companies, tourism agencies for decades have been really, really great at what I call vanilla promotion. They're the ones who are out there saying, hey, stay 3 nights, get the 4th for free, or come see our beautiful beaches, or come experience the lap of luxury in the middle of the African Serengeti, or whatever it is that's going on. They're really great at promoting their new product, their new idea, their new mission, their new experience. But no one's really running around doing what I call proactive stakeholder management. They don't have a plan. They don't have an executable plan to reach out to their stakeholders. You don't have a problem because of the coronavirus. You have a problem because you don't have the right process. If you have the right process, all of this stress gets dramatically easier. If you have the right process, you know exactly who to say, what to say, and who to say it to. It makes your life that much easier. Now, if you were here last week, not last week, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we talked about facts versus emotion. I'm not going to dive into a lot of what we covered, although just really quickly, we talked about the fact that right now, people are coming to you with emotion-based questions, and you're offering fact-based answers, and that's not going to work. It's like what happens when my 6-year-old says, Dad, there's a monster under my bed. You can explain, there's no such thing as monsters. Shut up, kid, go back to sleep. It's not going to work. You need to adopt the grandmother approach. You need to give people a big squeezy hug. You need to reach out, put your arms around them, maybe not physically, but figuratively, and just be there. People are stressed, scared, and confused. You need to be their rock right now. And we talked about what the emotional factors are that go into trust. And the big one is empathy. How are you reflecting back to your audience that you know how they feel? If they don't know that you know how they feel, they will communicate how they feel, and they're going to do it in a way you're not going to like. So the most important thing you can offer to your audiences right now. And by audiences, by the way, we talked about this last week as well. It's not necessarily your customers or your potential customers or your future customers or your canceled customers. You have all of those people, but it's also things like your employees. It's things like your investors, your regulators, your city councilors. You draw that line big and broad and figure out who it is that you need to be communicating with. So when you've got that all in place, you figured out, okay, you know what? This is not about facts. This is about emotions. What can you do to calm people down, to be empathetic, to be trustworthy? That's great. And that's what we talked about 2 weeks ago. We're going to talk right now about what it is you can actually say to people in order to get them on board. No matter how difficult the question, no matter how hardcore, no matter how arrogant or crappy they sound, you're going to be able to calm them down and maybe not leave them with a smile, but certainly leave them happier than they were before they met you. How in order do we do that? The very first step is to understand what it is we are in right now, and that is absolutely a tough time. But that's a good thing. This is your opportunity to be a trusted, memorable leader, because here is the dirty secret I'm going to tell you about crisis communications. No one remembers the leaders from the good times. No one cares about who was in charge during the good times. I use an example. It's a little bit American centric, so apologies if you're not an American, as I know most of you. I'm Canadian myself, but you would all probably know who this guy is. Ronald Reagan, former president of the United States, often credited, rightly or wrongly, with tearing down the Iron Wall, the Iron Curtain, bringing the Soviet Union to its knees, standing at the Berlin Wall saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Before that, John F. Kennedy, Cuban Missile Crisis, absolutely the closest that the modern world has ever come to war. Before that, Abraham Lincoln. Everyone knows Abraham Lincoln is. You've all studied Abraham Lincoln. Went through the biggest, grossest, bloodiest war in U.S. history. To this day, the biggest war in U.S. history. Before that, Washington, crossing the Delaware River in the middle of the night, freezing to death, working hard, establishing a foothold for a future country. But I bet you don't know who this guy is. This guy led the United States through the biggest economic boom in history up until that point. And no one knows who he is, right? No one remembers the leaders in the good times, right? You need to be absolutely embracing the fact that this is a tough time. You didn't cause the tough time. You're here for a reason. People are looking to you for leadership. This is your opportunity. By the way, it's Calvin Coolidge who led the United States for 8 years through the 1920s. So we're going to answer some tough questions today. And tough questions, by the way, here are just a few examples. I'm considering layoffs. Who do I keep? Who do I lay off? How do I talk to people about that? How can I convince suppliers to ease off on payment demands? What if this goes on for longer than anyone expects? What if? These are the kinds of questions that you stare at your ceiling at 3 a.m. and you don't have answers for. These are the types of things that will cause you to get that ulcer that you've been afraid of for the last 20 years. These are the things that, as a leader, people are looking to you for. How do you come up with answers? So what I'm going to walk you through right now is what I call the checkmate method. I own a company. It's called Checkmate Public Affairs. And we've developed a proprietary method. Now, this is normally something that I would not walk through on a free webinar. This is normally a part of a communications training course that I charge $7,500 a day to come to your office and to deliver this. So, please.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I speak on behalf of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. But pay attention. So what we're going to walk you through is what I call the rock, the checkmate method on how to answer just about any tough question on earth and leave them happy. And that is, the first step is understand where it is that you're at in the whole process. It feels crazy. It feels chaotic. It feels like there's waves crashing over you. It feels like you're in the middle of a crazy storm, but you need to know that you're not going anywhere. You are a rock. You have that inner certainty. Right now, it's a crazy time. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. No one really knows what's going on. Do you know when the coronavirus vaccine is going to come? I don't. Do you know when your border is going to open? I don't. Do you know when the next person in your family is going to get sick? I don't. No one knows. No one knows. And that's okay. It feels awful, but that's okay. Now, the secret to all of this is what I call a key message. And it's, I don't have a lot of the time to walk you through the scientific process that we use to come up with a key message, but it's 7 to 11 words. And there's a really good, use of those 7 to 11 words. There's a really bad use of those 7 to 11 words. But when you have a good 7 to 11 words, that becomes your rock. That becomes the certainty that you believe in, that you operate off of, and that other people come to you for. It has to be the truth. None of this is going to work if you're spinning people. This isn't about how to promote a lie. This is about how to promote the truth, and the truth has to be there. So maybe you're tasked with saving a hotel, and you've made a decision from a business perspective that the right decision right now is to close the hotel, to mothball the hotel, and when things get better, you're going to reopen the hotel. It's a controversial decision. It means laying off a lot of people. It means laying off your friends. It means people are going to be upset with you. They're going to be yelling at you. I'm completely coming up with a complete hypothetical scenario. Maybe for you, it's something different. Maybe it's how to convince people not to sue you. There's 1,000 different scenarios. So work with me here right now. We're all going to hypothetically assume that we're in charge of a hotel. So for whatever reason, you're going to close that hotel. Maybe your message is closing the hotel is the best way to save the hotel. There you go, 9 words. But now that becomes the answer to everything that you need. That's your rock. That's your solution. You need to believe it. It needs to be true. But let me walk you through the framework on how that works. Now, you've got those 7 to 11 words. By the way, I am an absolute stickler for this. If this were a full-on media training workshop right now, we would come up with those 7 to 11 words and I would drill them in you. It's scientifically proven. Anything more than 11 words becomes unmemorable. And trust me, you need this to be memorable. Anything less than 7 words comes across as too contrite, too flippant. We don't want to be flippant. We want to be caring. We want to be empathetic. But at the end of the day, we need to promote a message. So 7 to 11 words. That's it. This is not the time to get into your entire history. This is not the time to get into justification. These are the 7 to 11 words. Your rock. What is your rock? Now, we've already decided saving this hotel is the best, closing this hotel, is the best way to save this hotel. All right, there's your words. So we're going to back that up, first off, with a supporting point that's based in facts. Now, remember, this isn't about facts. This is about emotion, but the facts still need to be there. This is not going to work if you're completely making shit up. It's not going to play. You need to be based in honesty, and that's where facts come in. We're also going to back it up with a second supporting point based in experience, something that you've personally, run into. This helps answer the other half of the equation. If you remember that pie chart we showed you last week, we talked about honesty, dedication, and competency. Those are the other halves of the empathy pie, right? And we're going to wrap it up with those very same 7 to 11 words. That's our bookend. That's our rock. That's what we're basing this whole thing on. But what's the most important thing? Well, remember we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I said, by the way, now I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. I'm curious who will be the first one to come up with this one. What's the most important thing if we're going to communicate to an upset, scared, stressed out audience? What is it that we need to do in order to get them to trust you? And Jamo or Yama, I apologize if I'm not getting that correctly, nails it. It's all about empathy. We need empathy off the top. There is no such thing as too much empathy. Now, this is pretty structural. This is pretty, and there's a reason that this slide is black and white. It's very boring. It's very staid. It's very, classical looking lecture style. And that's not how I think. That's not how I work. But I needed to lay this out for you just to show you that there is a structure to everything we're doing here. Let me show you what this looks like in terms of an example. So, very first thing, empathy. Hey, you know what, Diane, I know that you've had some questions about why we're closing the hotel. I've asked myself those very same questions. And I can say, closing the hotel is the best way to save it. There you go, 7 to 11 words. There's your key message. Now, right now, even if we had 5% occupancy, it would cost more in food, salaries, and fees to stay open than we're taking in. And we don't even have that 5% occupancy. We're not there. There's your supporting point based in facts. I have seen firsthand what happens when people delay making a decision. It's not a happy decision. It makes my heart hurt, but we need to take clear action and we need to choose a direction that will save us money, which is why I can say closing the hotel right now is the best way to save the hotel. There you go. I've asked myself the same question. I can say closing the hotel is the best way to save it. If we had more occupancy, it still wouldn't be enough to save it. I've seen what happens when people delay making a really tough decision. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to you. We need to take some clear action right now, which is why I can say closing the hotel right now is the best way to save the hotel. Now, Diane may be upset about that, but at the end of the day, Diane can't really argue about that either. Remember, we're not trying to make friends here. We're trying to calm down the skeptics. We're trying to calm the people down who are yelling outside our windows. We're trying to take a lot of really anxious, scared, nervous people, and we're giving them an answer that's based in honesty, but it's based in empathy. It's all about that rock. Now, I've intentionally left a good amount of time here. If you have some specific questions, if you want some specific scenarios and stuff, we can get into that. It really is this simple. We're going to take 7 to 11 words, and you're going to figure out what those 7 to 11 words are that are the core to your next big, scary, ugly decision. You need to ask yourself, all right, if I have investors that are upset about why we're doing X, then what is my answer to that? Can you come up with an answer that's 7 to 11 words? Let's boil this right down into a nutshell. Why are we going to do that? I'm seeing some of the comments.
I can give you a good example. Yeah, I can give you a good example. One of the things that travel agents are facing, and I think everybody in the industry is facing right now, is two situations. Yes, of course, right today, a lot of people are facing and not knowing when things are going to happen and when clients can travel and where can they go and how is it going to be. And, everybody's hoping that these experts have a crystal ball. And none, as you correctly mentioned, none of us do. It doesn't exist. So that's one issue that would be interesting to deal with. And another one that I think is very important, is what Trista is mentioning. And that's where it's a complicated situation with no perfect solution on anybody's side. So you have a traveler who's paid for a trip, who can't travel, not because of his fault, but because, we're living what we're living. And so they want a refund, which in normal circumstances would be expected or, part of your normal cancellation. What happens is that because very often this money is no longer in the agent's hands, the agent has passed it on possibly to a third party, middleman, and so forth. The money is really not even available anymore. And because that exact money, right, that's already been applied. And because there is no cash flow, there is also no reserve to be distributing back. How can people deal with that situation where everybody's in a justifiable position because it's nobody's fault, and yet everybody's compromised in a way, and it goes down the chain? You know what I mean? Everybody's expecting the other one to perform a miracle to save me. No, we have to understand what the other one's going through. So it's a challenging communication and conversation to have.
No, 100%. And so there's a couple things that I could offer to you, which is first off, it's a conversation that is happening in travel agencies all over the globe. And everyone's in that same position, which no question sucks, but you're not alone, right? That's important because I think really, and I've heard from a lot of people who just feel abandoned, who feel like they're completely on their own. They're swimming upstream right now, and you don't necessarily need to feel like that. What I've been advocating when it comes to the cancellation requests is you lead off with empathy. Hey, you know what, Tina, I understand you're looking for a refund. You're not able to make that trip to go see your sister. I understand. I have a sister myself. I know how rough it is and how much I know I look forward to going on my vacations and all the work and the planning that go into it. I know how frustrating this must be. Here's what I can tell you when it comes to refund requests. Any of the money that we have, we're happy to refund you, but that's not really the problem. The problem is that the money has gone to, the hotels and the airlines and everything else. Now we can work with you. We can work on your behalf to get as much of it back as possible. Or another option is let's work with you at making the best of what is really an unfortunate situation. We're going to do everything we can to save your vacation. It may not happen in 2020, but we're going to bust our butts to come up with a world-class experience for you in 2021 or 2022 when you feel prepared to travel. I call it the progress, not perfection statement. We're going to do everything we can to save this property. We're going to do everything we can to save your vacation. We're going to do everything we can to work on your behalf. It's not perfect. It's not an absolute. And people, by the way, are looking for absolutes. They're looking for hard, solid, concrete deadlines and dates and numbers. And it's tough because we don't have them. So one of the things that people tend to do is they say things like, can you guarantee that you will be able to save everyone's job? Can you guarantee me? And the problem is you can't. You can't guarantee that you're going to be able to save everyone's job. You can't guarantee that you're going to be able to save all of the money from the canceled vacation. You can't guarantee that the hotel will even necessarily reopen if we want to get really blunt with it. But what you can do is offer some absolutes. Now, the absolute, the rock, the guarantee there comes from within you. So rather than trying to come up with hedges, I should be able to save everyone's job. I hope to be able to save everyone's job. Come up with guarantees yourself. I always like, saying the answer back to them, which is, I can guarantee you I'm doing everything I can to save jobs. Do you hear the difference there? I guarantee I'm doing everything I can to save your vacation experience. I guarantee I'm, doing it. It becomes you carry your rock around inside you. People are you're doing everything you can to make yourself the trusted spokesperson that they know they can come to in a really crazy and upsetting time. It's rough. Remember, we're going to lead in with empathy, as much empathy as we can. Look, Tina, I've been there myself. I know what this is like. I guarantee you, I'm going to do everything I can to save your vacation. Here's the situation. Here's the experience. Here's what's going to do. In my experience, what we've seen in the past is that this works best, but I don't want to, tell you what to do. Here's what I can do. How can I serve you? Either way, I'll tell you this. I'll do everything I can to help create a fantastic experience for you in what is a really tough time. They're not going to be happy. But they're probably going to be a whole lot less pissed off at you, right? And sometimes that's a victory, right? Empathy, 7 to 11 words, supporting point as to why you use those 7 to 11 words, and then wrap it up with those same 7 to 11 words. Now, I'm on the comment section, and someone mentioned, someone with a future ball. So let's talk about the future balls, right? There are no crystal balls. I know a lot of you probably came on here saying, hey, Jeff can tell us exactly what to do and say, and we'll be able to run through it, and we'll know exactly where we're going to go in the future. And I wish, trust me, I would make far more money and I would be far richer if I knew what the future held. Honestly, as much as I would love to tell you I know what the future holds, no one knows what the future holds. But I do know this. You have a rock. You need to remember your rock. Those 7 to 11 words are where you live on that rock. You need to love that rock. That rock needs you. You need that rock. More importantly, your people, the people who are coming to you to be trusted, to coming for you because they have refund requests. They're coming to you because they're scared about their job. They're coming to you because they're scared about their vacation or anything else. They need you to live on that rock. That level of certainty is critical right now, and there's no reason you can't have it. It's making the best of an awkward situation right now. Because we don't know, and that's all right. We don't know what the vaccine is. We don't know about timelines. We don't know about future quarantines or future borders. We don't know, but that's okay. Honestly, I'm here to tell you, as much as it feels like I may be all hocus pocus and using my crystal ball and empathy crystals on you, it's not about that. This is about calming down upset and difficult stakeholders. And why is it okay that we don't know the facts? It's because you have a rock. You have that level of certainty. When you can hit your audience with empathy, honesty, and that rock, those 7 to 11 words, it packaged in the way that we just discussed. Use the framework. Use the framework works. 7 to 11 empathy, 7 to 11 words, supporting point based in facts, supporting point based on experience, and those same 7 to 11 words. Now, if the difference between what I just shared and what happens if I were to come in and actually do a hardcore media training session, either in person or on Zoom or anything else like that, we would walk through some of the common, I call them landmines. There are a lot of things that you're going to be tempted to do. For example, one of the structural problems that we run into is we tend to go supporting point, and therefore conclusion. For example, I'm cooking on my own this evening because I don't have my kids with me. I really haven't had a good steak in a while. And because I'm just by myself and because I can do that, that's why I've got a steak downstairs ready to go for this evening's dinner. You see how I did that? Here's a supporting point based on facts. Here's a supporting point based on experience. And there is my conclusion. I have a steak waiting for me downstairs. There's your structure. It's a whole lot more powerful if you can do it in reverse. For example, hey, you know what? I know everyone's hungry. I've asked myself that same question. I've got a steak waiting for me downstairs. Why do I do that? I do that because frankly, my kids aren't here, so they don't need to eat that steak. I love steak and I'm really good at cooking steak. And I'm excited to tell you, I've got a steak waiting for me downstairs, right? It's a silly example, but you can see the point. When you follow the structure, when you follow the framework that's laid out for you, everything becomes that much easier for you. There's a reason that framework exists. Now, if you want some more information, if you want to dive into, hey, here's my particular situation, what would you suggest we could use for that rock? If you want to talk about what's going on, what are the big fears, what are the things that are going across your ceiling at 3 a.m, I do have a unique opportunity for you. I know that Tina and I have worked quite hard at being able to put together a booking calendar. And we've had the opportunity to meet one-on-one with a number of you in the last couple of weeks. And frankly, it's been a lot of fun. If you want to sit down with Tina and I, both at the same time, on Zoom and go through your particular situation, we are happy to do that. This is, we could probably, I'm going to ask Anna if maybe she can punch that link into the chat box right now. Hopefully Anna's paying attention. But and even if you don't see it in the chat box, I can promise you it will be in the follow-up email that Tina and her crew send out. But this is a really crazy good opportunity. Normally, I sit down with major corporations that are in the midst of a crisis. I'm happy to sit down with anyone right now, and let's talk about your particular situation. If there's an opportunity to do some work together, I'm happy to have a conversation about what that looks like, but it's not a sales call. It's more just an introductory session. If we want to, move on to having a conversation about what ongoing work would look like, absolutely. I mean, there's no shame in that. We're all here to make some money. There's no, I don't mind saying that, but that's not what this is about. It's about simply a bunch of old friends who are all in this together, who want to help each other. And that's why I'm really excited to do this with Tina. With that, let me pass it over to Tina herself.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I think the objective of doing this is really to try to, as Jeff says, to help. I think I found myself in a situation that I didn't know how to come across and how to communicate and what to say and how to avoid those landmines, as Jeff correctly points out. And he is very good at helping us. I think just how impactful it is, the difference between, answering a question with, well, I wish I could not fire everybody, or I wish I could, to say, I guarantee that I'll do my best. It's when I hear it already, I'm thinking, wow, that's really much better. Like, I feel that you're so much more empathetic towards my situation and really trying to do everything you can within your grasp. The I wish I could is like, well, I don't really know if I want to, or do I have time to? So it does leave margin for a bit of that. So there is so much weight in the choice of words and the order of which you put them, and all that is, it's like magic. If you do it in the right order, you get one result. If you get the same words and you mix it out wrongly, you get the whole other thing. And so we've had some very interesting conversation with a few, mostly travel agents, who have reached out to us and wanted to have a talk. And it's been very interesting, because when we usually say, and what can we do to help you? The question tends to be, how do I take the first step? Like, how do I get started? Where do I go from here? And, it's that feeling of being lost. And when we say, well, I don't know, what have you done? And then they come up with all of these amazing things. And we're like, oh, you've pretty much done a lot, give yourself credit. Are you kidding me? We've had people that were contacting individually hundreds of clients. It's like, wow, you've hundreds of clients you managed to contact. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And what's the message? And so that's, I think, in a step-by-step, the process that everybody has to go through is firstly understanding, what have you done already? What has been the message that you've put across? And then, I know it's a very, very hard thing, but try to come up with your 7 to 11 words. Think about, what is the mission of your company? What is the purpose of your role? And keeping in mind, as Jeff said, that empathy is the ground break here, that's what you have to hold on to. And one of the things that for me was very difficult was accepting the fact that there is no perfect solution. I'm like, no, but I want the perfect answer that's going to, give full empathy and make somebody feel great and give them all that comfort. And we don't have it, because the truth of the matter is, we don't know. But the beautiful thing is, if you can make that person believe that you're on their side, that you're there to help. And at the end of the day, I don't need to listen to the news. I don't need to know what's going on, because I've got my agent. I've got my go-to person. And that go-to person is somebody that's looking out for me and has my back. And when the time comes, they're gonna call out, and they're gonna tell me where to go, why to go, how to get there, who's gonna pick me up. And I don't have to be worried anymore, because I've got this one lifesaver. Literally, we're gonna be lifesavers. And you don't have to have all the right answers right now to be a lifesaver. You just have to pass on that message. As Jeff correctly pointed out, I guarantee that I'm going to do everything in my power, with my 20, 30 years of experience of going through this, that, and the other, that I'm here for you. And when the time comes, I will let you know, and I will know where, when, and how, but it's not yet, and that's okay too, right? So please do use that link that we sent. It's it's something that I've really been enjoying. It's 30 minutes of being able to catch up. And if you want additional and personalized help from Jeff, he is fantastic, and that's what he does. That's his profession. All of us, have professions that we truly value. When the time comes to travel, he's going to call all of you, because that's not his area of expertise. But right now, we need his area of expertise. That's why he very, very generously agreed to do these sessions. And so I hope that this session was as helpful as the first one. And I think, the first session, we all came out with the power of empathy. And this session, I think we have to come out with the power of the rock, but also the power of truth, and not trying to make things up, or, find a slippery road that you can kind of like, try to find the right answer, but really just rely on the fact that, you're doing the best you can. And with that, you give yourself time, and you build connections, and you connect. And that's the important thing. And with time, we will have the answers. So we are available. We look forward. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to touch base on anything else that I missed. I wanted to just wrap it up from my experience of conversations and the conversations we'd had with some agents. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to jot it down on the chat. We're on both Zoom and YouTube, so I am looking at both. But otherwise, we will look forward to catching up with you on a one-to-one, if we can, with everybody there. And I hope it's been enjoyable. And from my side, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate every minute. Every time I hear you, I learn something new. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I have so much fun. I love your audience. I love you. I love the group. I have had just an absolute blast getting to know some of the different travel agencies and the entrepreneurs and the leaders and the owners who are out there on the front lines for the travel industry right now. And so if that's you, I can't stress to you enough, take the time, take advantage of the resources that are available to you. The call is absolutely free. We're happy to sit down and have some coffee and walk you through your situation and at least try to get some progress and make you feel better about what's going on out there. But other than that, I really look forward to next week. Next week, we're going to talk about recovery and recovery plans. It's a little bit more some structure work. We're going to take a look at laying out some stakeholder communications and approaches. I don't know if it's going to be so much inspirational, but framework oriented, but it's important. But in the meantime, don't wait. Go ahead, book some time, and there are limited spots available. So if you're thinking about it, jump in there and take advantage of that. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Have a great week, everybody. My thoughts and prayers are with everybody in the US. We're going through very difficult times. I wish I was something I could say, and I learned from Jeff what's the right message to say here. But despite everything we're going with this pandemic, it's just unfathomable that we could be living times. Feels like we're in the, I don't even know what to say. But my heart and my prayer and my love is with anybody and everybody that's and all of us suffer through this, because this affects all of us all over the world. And I think that's important for us to take a minute and just be aware and have empathy and send love and stay strong.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers.
Kisses. Thank you, everyone.